In our modern world, obsessed with external success and validation, we often forget the part of us that truly needs to grow, our inner world, the conditioning, patterns, beliefs, and untold stories that shape our lives. Here at the Inner Bloom podcast, we explore the psychology and spiritual wisdom that helps us understand ourselves, break cycles, and return to who we really are. This is where inner growth begins. I am worthy of love, happiness, and success. My dreams are valid, and I am capable of achieving them. I am strong, capable, and resilient. So these are the quotes that I see when I look at self-love content on TikTok. And I read it and I'm like, yeah, that's true, but what does that really mean? I feel like with self-love, you can light all the candles, drink all the matcha, repeat all the affirmations you don't fully believe yet, and you can still find yourself picking yourself apart in the mirror, not necessarily believing all the affirmations that you're telling yourself. You can prioritize yourself and still feel behind in your career. You can do all the right self-care things and still fall into comparison the second you open your phone. You scroll through LinkedIn and someone else just landed your dream job. Or you open Instagram and there's another couple taking the next big step. Or a friend texts you and tells you about the trip that you wish that you could take right now. And suddenly, despite all of that self-love you have been trying to cultivate, that old familiar feeling creeps in, that you're behind, that you're not where you're supposed to be. Well, maybe the issue isn't that you're not loving yourself enough. Maybe the problem is that we were taught the wrong definition of self-love. Because self-love isn't about perfection. It's not about always being confident or believing in yourself. And it's not about turning yourself into someone who never doubts, never struggles, never compares. True self-love begins the moment you stop trying to become a version of someone else. The moment you stop measuring your life against a blueprint that was never meant for you. The moment you accept, even imperfectly, who you are right now. And this is the doorway into today's topic, self-love through the lens of both psychology and spiritual wisdom. Buddhism teaches that before you can spread love outward, you must learn to offer it inward. One of the core teachings in Buddhism is karuna, or compassion. It is a courageous willingness to stay present with your pain instead of judging it or pushing it away. Karuna says, "This hurts, but I will meet this hurt with kindness instead of criticism." The Buddha said, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So if you can be there for others in really hard times, but not hold that same pain for yourself, you are not practicing karuna fully. I think a lot of us are superstars at being there for others, being the really reliable friend, family member, but if we push away our own moments of pain, struggle, suffering, and are self-critical to ourselves, we are not truly the most loving version of ourselves, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, as they say. I think it is sometimes helpful to honestly separate yourself like you are a third person. Look at your own thoughts or situation like it is somebody else and assess it for what it is. Talk to yourself like you are your own best friend and hold the pain. Sit with it. Understand it. But tell yourself that you are deserving of love and space and kindness and understanding for your feelings, but you can grow from this. You can get stronger. And if that means doing the hard thing, then love yourself enough to do the hard thing. That is true self-compassion, and that is true self-love. And modern psychology echoes this wisdom perfectly. When we practice compassion, especially toward ourselves, it activates parts of the brain responsible for safety, calm, and emotional regulation. Instead of staying stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, the nervous system begins to soften. Stress hormones decrease, while feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin increase. So in other words, self-compassion doesn't just feel comforting emotionally, it literally changes your body state. When you meet your struggles with kindness instead of harsh judgment, you build emotional resilience. You create an inner environment where growth feels safer, where you're able to take risks, make mistakes, and still believe in your worth. Do things where you can actually grow safely. Without self-compassion, we fall into patterns like overcommitting because we're afraid of disappointing others, avoiding what matters because failure feels too threatening, making ourselves smaller to keep relationships intact. So self-love, through a psychological lens, is the practice of noticing these patterns with awareness instead of shame. It's learning to say, "This is hard for me," without turning that truth into self-criticism. When we enter situations thinking, "I don't need to be perfect, I just need to be honest and do my best," life feels different. Because you're going into a situation completely accepting that the outcome you would like may not come. So even if we don't get the promotion, even if a relationship ends after we set a boundary, even if whatever other outcome isn't what we hoped for, there is still peace. The feelings may be painful, but they're no longer filled with regret because we know we showed up as our highest self. And now I want to walk through an example of what practicing true self-love is like through identifying patterns that we learned through psychology and practicing true compassion through Buddhism by sitting with the pain. You always end up working over weekends when you're only supposed to be working a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Your boss and teammates drop things on you at the end of the week, and you feel obligated to say yes, because you're dependable. You get it done by Monday, but slowly you're exhausted, burnt out, quietly resentful, and deep down, you feel disrespected by them and by yourself for allowing it. Old patterns might tell you, "I can't say no. They'll think I'm difficult. If I don't do this, I'll fall behind. My worth here is tied to how much I sacrifice." Self-love changes how you meet this moment. Instead of spiraling, shutting down, or pushing through on autopilot, you pause, you get curious, you respond instead of react. You ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What do I need in this moment? When have I felt this before? And after reflecting on all of this, maybe you realize what you're feeling isn't just tired. It's actually a fear of disappointing people, a fear of being seen as replaceable. And instead of judging yourself for that, you hold it with compassion. Of course I feel this way. This pattern once kept me safe in childhood. You reflect on when your past caretaker made you feel like you must keep them happy to survive. You think about all the times when these same fears manifested in your life, but left you regretful for not speaking up. So you decide to take a stand and break the cycle. You challenge these inner fears. You start practicing discomfort in small, intentional ways. At work, you start asking clarifying questions about deadlines. Do I actually have to get this done by end of day Friday? I don't think I have capacity this week to take this on. Your heart races, your hands shake, but you do it anyway, not because you're this fearless girl boss, but because you care about your future self more than your momentary anxiety. And slowly things shift. Your weekends return, and your work quality actually improves because you're not depleted. The respect you were craving externally begins to grow internally first, and from that place, your work life actually gets better too, because you're showing up grounded and more respected because you are not overextending and people take your time more seriously. And then the self-love and boundary setting multiplies in other areas of life. You start to speak up for your preferences in relationships. You say no to peer pressure, or you walk away from a friendship that no longer serves you because you know it's truly best for you. And that is the real work of self-love. It's not avoiding discomfort, it's choosing the kind of discomfort that leads to freedom. It's meeting your fears with compassion and understanding, and then walking straight through them anyway. It's loving yourself enough to create a better life, even when the process feels hard. So in conclusion, self-love is the moment you stop asking, what is wrong with me and start asking, what happened to me? What do I need? How can I care for this part of me instead of abandoning it? It's choosing to overwrite fear with compassion, discomfort with courage. And it's understanding that healing doesn't mean the absence of pain. It means you no longer punish yourself for feeling it. You don't become more worthy when you finally stop struggling. You were already worthy in the struggle. And acknowledging that within yourself is the most important thing. So the next time you find yourself being really self-critical or in a really lost or hurt place, I want you to take a step outside of yourself. Look at yourself like you do your best friend or a loved one or that younger version of yourself that desperately needed a big sister, and ask yourself these deeper questions and figure out, what are you really feeling? What do you need in this time right now? And if it means doing something uncomfortable in that moment, go ahead and do it. If it means digging deeper and figuring things more about yourself, get to know yourself more and come from a loving standpoint where you're not giving up on yourself. Choose you all the time. And that is what self-love is all about. And I'm going to conclude today's episode with a random wise quote. And today's quote is, "If I am impatient to experience the results of my efforts, it is like trying to eat unripe fruit." All right, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.